Okay guys, I'm in Cheltenham, which is a town quite close to me, and I'll put some shots off of us walking up and down the road, whatever, for you, so you can see what kind of town it is. Behind me here, there's like a fairground. I'll just turn the camera around, and they've got some generators running and stuff, so it's probably not the best place to actually record this, but it's nice, it's in the shade, I've got a bit of sun if I need it, and I want to talk to you today about strategy versus execution. That's quite important to me because in my businesses I made a huge mistake, and that was I over-planned it. I over-planned the fuck out of that shit, I'm not even joking. And I started looking for investment and all this kind of other stuff, and it was wrong. And the reason I did that was because in the military I'd been a bomber pilot, and I'd been all about the planning, all about the strategy, and I thought that's what you need to do in life. I didn't realize that when you came out here that's not necessarily the case. Now of course, if you want to have a family, planning for it is quite a good thing, but if you want to open a corner shop, that's not necessarily the case. What you can do and what people do, and I'm always amazed by these people who open these shops, is they just start a small shop and then they put some produce in the shop and they see whether that produce actually sells. If it doesn't sell, they send it back or they discount it or they don't stock it again. But if it does sell, then they restock it, and eventually they end up in a shop with products people want to buy. And that's what I'm saying you need to be doing if you want to start a business, is get the viable product out there, get something out there that you think people are going to be interested in, and see whether they are interested in it. Walk with it. You can always go and change it later on. You can always refine that product. And that's what I do with my businesses. Get something out there, see whether people are biting on it, see what the reaction to it is, refine it, get it out, nurture the product, and obviously then we make some money that way, don't we? I had a mate of mine called Steve when I was in the Air Force, really good dude actually. One day Steve came up to me and he said, Tim, I'm going to start an app, I'm going to create an app, I'm going to sell it, become a millionaire. I was like, all right Steve, sounds pretty good mate. But when I asked him what it was, he wouldn't tell me. I said, why won't you tell me what your app is, Steve? He says, well, I don't want to tell you in case you copy me. I said, Steve, I fly airplanes, mate, I'm not going to copy you. Anyway, Steve said he was going to research his app. He's learning to program at the time, so he could program the app, and then obviously he was going to go and sell this app and make millions of pounds. But guess what happened? That's right, Steve never did make this app. He never actually sold this app, and I think he's still flying airplanes today, but he's a good dude and it's understandable. Best thing Steve could have done was just throw out a small app. Maybe have some fruit that falls from the sky, and maybe get a big sort of machete or a sword and chop it all up, and chopping it up, Fruit Ninja, you could make some money out of that idea, and then you could refine it as you went along. Remember what Mark Zuckerberg did with Facebook then? When he was creating Facebook, of course, he was first into that social media space and he didn't really know what he's doing. So best thing he said he could do was just move fast and break things, was the thing that Mark Zuckerberg did. And of course, that's why we saw that Facebook developing itself over so much time. They just didn't want the competitors to get the run on them. They didn't want to sit there and plan all this stuff and let other people go out and find finance and everything else. So they just ran with it. They ran with it and they got it done. A lot of businesses don't need finance. I talk to people, I'm going to start this, Tim. I'm just trying to get some finance together. You don't need finance, mate, just start it. You know, if it's all right, you can then go out to someone and say, look, my profits for this year are this. Would you like to invest in my company? If you want to do that, if you don't want to do that, don't worry about it. But just start doing it. All right? There's a lot of things in life. People talk about giving up smoking, giving up drinking, starting the gym. Just start. Just start. Literally start. Just feel like what it's like to have a night off alcohol. Feel like what it's like to have, you know, maybe 12 hours off cigarettes. Feel like what it's like. Your body will start getting used to it. To hit the gym when you don't want to. You haven't got to lift anything. You can just walk on a treadmill or something like that. You know what I mean? Just start now. Just feel what it's like. Get used to that feeling of being uncomfortable. That works really well, that feeling of being uncomfortable. I did that with drinking, did it with smoking. It works. I realise now that, especially men, and I'll say that, have to live with a certain degree of discomfort. We all do really, because of course life isn't rosy and we have to live in a little bit of a state of negativity. The last thing I'll leave you with that is, don't tell other people what you're planning to do. It's really strange how the brain works, but if you tell people what you're planning to do, what the brain does, it kind of thinks you're doing it already. It's really weird. And so therefore, when you do come to do it, you have less enthusiasm for that particular task. The brain thinks, well, he's obviously doing part of it, so get on with it. And it just doesn't really kind of lend itself well to the overall task. It doesn't give you the amount of enthusiasm that you might need. But because the thing is that you always want to tell someone, you always want to go to your wife or your girlfriend or your husband or your boyfriend and say, I'm thinking about doing this, because it feels like you're doing it. It feels like without actually doing any work that you're actually doing this thing. Well, look, I must be doing it because I've come up with all this planning. Truth is, you haven't done anything. I would advise you keep it quiet, action some part of it, get a web address, something like that, maybe start some design work, get your MVP being recognized out there, anything like that. Just get it out, see how you can get on with it, and see what comes of it. That's probably the best thing you can do. Look, I know this is quick, guys. I didn't want to labor it. It's just a Friday in Cheltenham. Hopefully you've had a bit of a street scene with this. I'll do some more for you, and well, hopefully I'll catch you a bit during the week. I appreciate it. Tim Davies, Fast Ship Performance.